Hi everyone, I'm Sam Nussbaum. I'm one of the Career and Academic Advisors at the SOJC, and today we're going to go over some resume basics. This is going to be a great presentation for those of you who maybe don't have a resume or haven't updated it in a while, but we're just going to go over the basics. So let's get started. So first of all, what is a resume? A resume is really just a document that's supposed to be a snapshot of your most relevant and important skills, experiences, etc. It's not supposed to be all-inclusive and include everything that you've ever done, and your resume is really just supposed to be a document that impresses an employer enough to get you an interview. Keep in mind that this is a living, changing document. As you gain more experiences and skills, you'll want to add those to your resume and then tailor it for different positions that you're applying for. Keep in mind that there should always be a good reason to include something on your resume, and if you're having trouble deciding if something belongs on your resume or not, ask why, and if you don't have a good answer, it might be best to leave it out. Also, keep in mind that everyone is going to have an opinion on your resume, and you're just going to have to shift through it and decide what you want to keep, because this is your document. Faculty, mentors, supervisors, and other career advisors all will have opinions on your resume, and this is a great pool to draw from to figure out what you should include on yours. Finally, it's absolutely critical that you keep your resume updated so that you don't forget the details of your experiences, like maybe how many people you recruited to join an organization or how much money you were able to fundraise for an event. We suggest updating it at the end of each term or at least twice a year, and we'll get into more details later, but this is just a general overview. So now we're going to go over some quick formatting tips for your resume. First and foremost, we want to encourage you to create your own template rather than just using one directly from Canva or Word. We recommend this for a variety of reasons, but primarily because recruiters can spot a template really easily and it can detract from your creativity. Also, sometimes templates can be difficult to update and manipulate as you gain experience, so you should really use a template as more of an outline that you then personalize rather than just filling in your own information. Next, we encourage you to include a header with good contact information at the top of your resume. This will include a good email address, phone number, and then a LinkedIn account or online portfolio if you have it. Also, a reminder, your resume should be one page at this point, and you'll need to find ways to maximize that one page. You want to make sure that you don't have too much blank space and really fill the entirety of the page. Next, we encourage you to use consistent formatting throughout your resume. So this includes the way that you're using certain fonts, colors, bold, italics, etc. You'll want to make sure that it's consistent throughout your document. If you're applying to creative positions, we encourage you to implement some design elements into your resume to highlight your graphic design skills, but make sure that it is industry appropriate. Finally, always save and send your resume as a PDF. This will ensure that if an employer goes to download your resume, none of the formatting will change, and so that way it will look exactly the same as how you sent it. Now we want to go over what kind of experiences you should include on your resume. You can definitely include any sort of work experience that you've had, but we also want to remind you that unpaid experience is still valuable to employers. So volunteer experience, or if you're really involved in different clubs and organizations on campus, you should include that experience in your resume as well. We also encourage you to put any sort of special academic projects that you've worked on your resume. We often see students that are just coming out of Gateway to include Gateway projects on their resume if they want to really emphasize the skills that they've learned there. Speaking of skills, we want to remind you to keep the skills section really targeted towards hard technical skills. So thinking about different computer programs or platforms that you're used to working with, or maybe even equipment, and then leave off things that are more transferable skills like communication, writing, editing. Those things should all come out in your bullet point experience, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Just a reminder, you don't need to include high school under your education section because this can lead to age discrimination and it's just not necessary. You can keep high school experiences on your resume up until the end of your sophomore year, and then after that you should be replacing that experience with things that you've learned in college. Other things to keep in mind are that you don't need to include references on your resume. Normally an employer will ask for those separately. And then objectives or profiles or any sort of summary on your resume is not necessary. LinkedIn is a great place to put these different pieces, and it's just not necessary to include on your resume when you should be using that space to describe your experiences. We recommend not putting your full street address on your resume. Nobody really mails things anymore, and you always want to be careful as to how much personal information you're putting out into the world. We also want to remind you that you don't need a headshot on your resume. You can leave that on your LinkedIn account. It's not necessary to put on your resume. And GPA can be different depending on which kind of industry you're applying for. Unless you have a 3.5 or above GPA, it's not necessary to include it, although some employers might ask for it. Next, I'm going to talk about some ways to help organize your resume. Your resume has to strike a balance between function and form, so the organization is really important. Always put your most relevant experiences at the top and then follow with the rest of your experience. Within each section, your experiences should be listed in reverse chronological order, meaning the most recent things should come first. Next, you can use your headers as a way to draw attention to specific skills, as you can see in the example that we have on this slide. Use information from the position description for the role that you're applying for to help tailor your resume to each of the skills that they're looking for. And the headers are a great way to highlight your experiences. For example, if a position emphasizes the importance of communication in the role, consider using communication experiences as one of your headers. We have some more examples listed on this slide here, as you can see, customer service experience, leadership experience, etc. Keep in mind that education should be at the bottom of your resume for the media industry, but if you're applying to something like an academic fellowship or an internship, or if you're applying to grad school, consider putting your education at the top. If you're unsure of where certain things belong on your resume, make an appointment with one of our advisors and we can help you target your resume. Here we're going to go over some quick content tips for your resume. For each experience, you'll need to include the title of the position that you held, the name of the organization, the location, and the dates that you held that position. Remember that an employer won't be familiar with University of Oregon's specific activities like DuckTV or JPEG, so it's really important that you take some time within your bullet points to provide some context for your employer. Next, you'll want to be sure to start each bullet point with an active verb. The University of Oregon Career Center has a great list of verbs on their website broken down by skill set, and we'll have this page linked to our website as well. Make sure that you don't use the same verbs over and over again to avoid your resume reading off as really repetitive, and make sure the positions that you currently hold use present tense verbs, and things you've done in the past use past tense verbs. Next, remember not to just list your responsibilities in your resume, and you'll really want to focus on the outcomes. We'll get into more details about that in the next slide. Only include current and past experience on your resume, so unfortunately you can't put a future term abroad or an internship that you plan to do over the summer on your resume currently. Finally, make sure that you tailor your resume to the particular position that you're applying for. Take some time to really look at the job description and make sure that you utilize keywords from the job description in your resume. This will make your resume feel like you're already speaking the language of the organization and help you stand out from others. When writing your bullet points, think about the skills or strengths that you developed and then build your bullet points around those strengths and skills. Your goal for each bullet point is to highlight what you specifically contributed to an organization that had some sort of result, whether it be quantitative or qualitative. A quantitative result could be something like increasing Twitter followers, while a qualitative result could be something like making a process more efficient or effective. Having quantitative elements in your bullet points is critical. We have some examples that we'll cover a little later on to help clarify this, and if you're not sure how to include these elements in your own resume, meeting with an advisor can help you. Keep in mind when writing your bullet points that the employer wants to know what you specifically can deliver to the organization. If you take nothing else away from this presentation, remember the formula that's at the bottom of this page. Start with an active verb, highlight a skill or strength by talking about what you did and how you did it, and then close with the results or outcomes, whether they're quantitative or qualitative. This is how all of your bullet points should be formatted. You want to paint a picture of what you did, how you did it, and what your contributions were. Results or outcomes should always connect to the position description, and next we'll go over some examples. Here's an example of how you can frame a customer service position as an experience where you learn valuable communication skills that any employer would want you to have. You can see that the bullet points on the right focus more on the qualitative outcomes, like politely and effectively enforcing the mask protocol while still serving customers safely and efficiently. Although these aren't necessarily quantifiable outcomes, this is an improvement over the other bullet points that focus more on the day-to-day tasks of the job. Rather, the improved bullet points highlight the transferable skills and follow the formula that we had just laid out, where you start with the active verb, talk about your skill or strength, and then close with the result. Here's an example of media-related bullet points that highlight writing skills, collaboration, and other transferable skills. Remember, even if the work that you do within a student organization is unpaid, it's still valuable experience that deserves to be included on your resume. In the improved bullet points, you'll see that they focused on outcomes like publishing 10 stories and recruiting new members, which are great things to highlight the variety of roles that they served within this organization. Finally, you'll notice that just like all the other bullet points we've looked at, they follow the verb, skill, result formula. If you have any questions that weren't answered by this presentation, we encourage you to make an appointment with our office where you can have a one-on-one conversation with an advisor about your resume. We also encourage you to reach out to these other resources like the SOJC Writing Central, your faculty members, professional mentors, and the University of Oregon Career Center. Keep in mind that a good resume takes time and you'll need multiple drafts in order to perfect it, but it's an important part of your professional development and we're here to support you.